The city of Baltimore has taken down a number of Confederate statues and a Confederate monument following the hate rally that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia. And they decided to take down these monuments in the middle of the night in an effort to do so in the most peaceful way possible. Now, keep in mind that lawmakers in the city had voted and decided to take these statues down. And so it wasn't something that they did secretly in the middle of the night. It was something that was agreed upon. Now, the removals began late Tuesday night, a day after the city council voted unanimously to take down the monuments immediately. The city, and this is a statement from the mayor, the city charter says, according to our city attorney, if the mayor wants to protect or feels like she needs to protect the public or keep her community safe, she has the right to keep her community safe. I felt the best way to remove the monuments was to remove them overnight. Now, keep in mind that they're not going to throw the monuments in the trash. They're just going to put them in a place that's a little less offensive, either a museum. There are other cities in the US that are considering doing something similar and placing the statues in a veterans cemetery, which I think is kind of questionable, but anyway.
No, but to be fair, this has a couple of directions. So one is they're thinking of mainly putting it in a Confederate cemetery, which makes a lot of sense. That seems like a good place for a Confederate statue. And then secondarily though, for the moment being, they're being temporarily stored at the Back River wastewater treatment plant. And I don't think that's an accident. And so is the mayor rubbing it in their face a little bit? I think so, and God bless her heart.
All right, so let me give you some information on exactly what they took down. So they took down a monument dedicated to Roger B. Taney. And if you don't know anything about Roger B. Taney, let me give you some information. He wrote the US Supreme Court's majority opinion in the Dred Scott ruling. And also in 1857, more details on that. In 1857, that ruling found that slaves were not citizens of the United States and therefore were not protected under the US Constitution. He wrote that majority opinion. And so think about how incredibly insulting it is to live in Baltimore as a minority, as a black person, and see a monument dedicated to that individual on public land.
And for the people who think, well, look, man, we're the majority, and so we get to put up any monuments we like, et cetera. Well, in Baltimore, African Americans are the majority, and so they can take your Confederate monuments and put them in the sewer all they like. That's what they decided to do. So I guess that's a sad day for you. And where would you put a statue of a guy who said you weren't even human?
Yeah, seriously. Also, there was, of course, a statue of Robert E. Lee that was also taken down, and Thomas Stonewall Jackson.
Let's just for 1 second look. I know that in the South, there's these statues in all sorts of places, and yes, in some places where the majority thinks that the Confederacy was awesome, they like traitors to America, et cetera. I get it. But in Baltimore, you've got a majority who believes that yes, African Americans are in fact humans and citizens, and it is an incredible insult to them to have these monuments in their city. Why the hell would they agree to that? So, and you have to understand the history of why the monuments were put up. They were not put up right after the Civil War. They were put up during the Jim Crow era to intimidate and terrorize African Americans, to say we're still in charge and you better know it. Well, okay, then you're not in charge anymore. So I'd just keep the monuments in the sewer if I was them.
All right, well, Baltimore isn't the only part of the US that is taking down these Confederate monuments and statues. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Roy Cooper, the Democratic governor of North Carolina. He wrote an op-ed arguing that it makes all the sense in the world to get rid of these statues in his state. And then also, there are other lawmakers. So for instance, in Kentucky, they're considering taking similar measures. Mayor Jim Gray of Lexington, Kentucky, is also moving quickly to relocate 2 Confederate monuments from outside a historic former courthouse. And so white nationalists and neo-Nazis are planning on protesting there, and hopefully it doesn't turn out to be as violent as the situation in Charlottesville?
So more context. So in Maryland, Maryland was not in the South. They were a border state, and some folks in Maryland, and same with Kentucky. So and Maryland and Kentucky both had people fighting in the Confederacy and the Union. So they don't have any particular allegiance to the Confederacy historically or as a matter of heritage. So there's no excuse on those grounds. But to the point of why the mayor in Baltimore did what she did. Now in Kentucky, when they go to take those statues down, there's going to be a huge uproar. And the neo-Nazis and the Klan's going to come again.
Yeah.
And probably the people who are protesting them will come again. And God knows what's going to happen. And she's like, look, man, it's done. I'm the mayor. I got elected to take executive action. I took executive action. I don't think that there's going to be too many people in the city crying over it. And we're done with it, okay? It's already finished. So what do you want to do? You want to bring them out of wherever we're keeping them and put them back up? All right, well, the next mayor could try that, see how it turns out. But it is what it is, and we're done with it. And so, look, I think that we do have to go through a process, as I said yesterday, in the case of where they brought down the monument in North Carolina, and I don't want people taking the law into their own hands. But in this case, it is the mayor. That's her job, okay? And so you can argue about whether the executive branch should do it or the legislature should do it. But there's 738 Confederate monuments that were erected not by accident, on purpose, to terrorize African Americans. None of them should stand. Help us build independent media together. TYTnetwork.com/join.